The art of not reacting become emotionally untouchable if they can control your reaction, they can control your destiny. If you want to be powerful, don't learn how to fight, learn how to stay still. Today, I'm going to show you how to become emotionally untouchable because your peace is your passport to greatness. Your reaction is your responsibility. Your reaction is your responsibility. That statement sounds simple, but it holds more weight than most people are ready to carry. The truth is, life is going to test you constantly. People will disrespect you. Circumstances will disappoint you. Even the closest ones to you might betray your trust. But hear me, you are not powerful because of what happens to you. You are powerful because of how you respond to it. The greatest battles are not fought with fists or fire. They are fought in the silence of your decisions. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. They don't know you. They're not thinking about you. They're just in a rush. But your heart starts racing, your hands tighten on the wheel, and suddenly you're yelling at a windshield as if your rage will teach them a lesson. But it doesn't. They're gone. You're the one left boiling in a moment that's already passed. That's what unchecked reaction does. It hands your peace over to people who didn't even ask for it. You've got to realize this: the world is full of provocations. Social media is filled with people who poke, prod, and post to get a rise out of you. They don't want truth, they want tension. And every time you take that bait, you're not proving your strength, you're proving how easily you can be emotionally manipulated. The enemy of greatness isn't just distraction, it's emotional leakage. It's wasting divine energy on things that don't deserve a moment of your power. Let's go deeper. Maybe your partner said something sharp. Maybe your boss passed you over for a promotion. Maybe a friend didn't return the loyalty you gave so freely. What do you do with that sting? What do you do with that sense of injustice that rises in your chest? Most people explode, they lash out, they post subliminal quotes. They engage in long arguments trying to set the record straight. But emotionally strong people know that silence can speak louder than fury. Here's why. When you react out of pain, you often create more of it. When you respond with intention, you interrupt the cycle. A woman once told me, every time I got mad, I lost something: my peace, my sleep, my focus, my relationships. But every time I paused, I gained clarity. That's the secret. A reaction feels good in the moment, but a response builds your future. Now hear this closely. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who stays calm under pressure. Not because they're weak, but because they are calculated. They understand that what you don't say can be more powerful than what you scream. A person who has trained themselves not to react is a person who has taken ownership of their inner life. That kind of person cannot be bullied, baited, or broken. They've built a fortress around their mind. If you've ever been around someone who remained composed while chaos unfolded, you've seen real power. That mother who gets the bills, handles the noise, deals with the pressure, and still speaks with grace. That's power. That man who's overlooked, mocked, and still shows up with dignity and vision, that's power. Reactions are cheap, responses are wealth. I once watched a young man in a corporate meeting get publicly embarrassed by his superior. The entire room shifted. You could feel the tension. But instead of reacting, the man simply nodded, wrote something down, and waited for the meeting to end. Later, that same superior was reprimanded for unprofessional behavior. The young man's discipline won him not only respect, but also a promotion. He didn't win by reaction, he won by restraint. That's the message. Your emotions are not meant to lead you. They're meant to signal you. They are messengers, not masters. When anger rises, it's telling you something is off. When sadness shows up, it's a sign something needs healing. But you are not obligated to act on every emotion that knocks on your door. Emotional maturity means you answer only the ones that serve your purpose. People think emotional strength is about suppressing what you feel. It's not. It's about channeling your feelings with wisdom. It's about understanding that your power is too precious to be thrown away on things that will not matter in 5 years or 5 minutes. So here's a principle to live by. Before you react, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If it's not, walk away. If it is, speak with precision, not poison. Because power is not in how loud you are, it's in how grounded you remain. When everything around you is trying to pull you off center, you don't need to clap back. You don't need to prove your point. You don't need to match their energy. The higher you rise, the less access you give to nonsense. Emotional strength isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not desperate. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I control me. I don't belong to your chaos. And once you master that, you become untouchable. Not because problems don't come, but because your peace no longer depends on what happens outside of you. Your peace is now rooted in who you've chosen to become. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you unstoppable. Because nothing can shake the one who has mastered their response. Stillness is a superpower. Stillness is a superpower. In a world addicted to noise, chaos, urgency, and constant movement, the ability to remain still internally and emotionally is one of the most underrated forms of strength. We've been conditioned to believe that action always means progress, that reacting quickly shows power, and that silence is weakness. But the truth is, the ones who move the world are often the ones who don't flinch under pressure because stillness gives them vision when others are blinded by emotion. Think of it like this: storms are loud, hurricanes are violent, but above the clouds, in the eye of the storm, there is complete calm. The most centered part of the chaos is the stillest. The same is true for people. The loudest person in the room isn't the most powerful. The calmest one is. The one who refuses to be moved by insults, baited by foolishness, or shaken by temporary storms, they are the ones who win in the long run. Because stillness is not weakness. Stillness is not passivity. Stillness is control. It is the ability to remain clear, headed when everyone else is losing their minds. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you're at work. A colleague who's been secretly envious of your growth decides to throw a sarcastic comment your way during a team meeting. It stings. Your heart starts beating faster. Your pride wants to rise and respond with something equally cutting. But instead, you pause, you breathe, you smile, and you say, "Thank you for your input," and move on. That one moment, that decision not to react emotionally just set you apart. Not only did you show professionalism, but you showed that you can't be shaken by petty provocations. And guess what? Everyone in that room saw it. You didn't just win the argument, you won the respect. Stillness gives you that edge, because when you can stay calm, you can see clearly. Most people react so quickly, they miss the full picture. They let their ego speak before their wisdom has time to rise. But when you're still, you hear the quiet things. You see the motives behind the words. You detect the traps that emotion tries to push you into. You don't just respond, you respond with strategy. You move with precision. You don't fight every battle, because not every battle is worth your presence. This kind of power is rare, and that's why it's so valuable. Anyone can yell. Anyone can cuss someone out. Anyone can throw hands when they feel disrespected. That's easy. That's animal instinct. But to pause, to think, to observe instead of react, that's where maturity lies. That's where legacy is built, because your future depends more on your reactions than your intentions. Many people have great intentions but destroy their progress because they couldn't stay still when it mattered most. Stillness also protects your energy. Have you ever noticed how drained you feel after an argument? How your whole body tenses, your mood changes, your day derails? That's because every emotional reaction pulls power from your core. Every time you lose your peace over someone's foolishness, you're giving them access to your energy vault. Stillness locks that vault. It says, "I don't give you permission to disrupt my spirit. I'm in control here." One of the most successful entrepreneurs I ever met told me something that changed how I approach problems. He said, "In every crisis, I say nothing for 5 minutes. I sit, I breathe, I listen. I wait for the emotion to pass before I speak." That's why he's respected. That's why people trust him. Because he doesn't just speak to be heard. He speaks when it matters. That's the power of stillness. It teaches you to respond with purpose, not react out of pressure. Even in relationships, stillness is gold. Your partner may say something out of frustration. Your child may act out. A friend may disappoint you. And everything in you wants to snap, to correct, to raise your voice. But stillness lets you ask, what's really going on here? Instead of reacting to the surface, you address the root. You respond in a way that builds rather than breaks. Stillness is not the absence of action. It's the choice of the right action. Stillness is what kept people like Nelson Mandela strong in prison for 27 years. It's what allows top athletes to stay focused even when the crowd is roaring against them. It's what separates leaders from followers, legends from trenders, and wise people from the emotionally impulsive. It's not about doing nothing. It's about not doing the wrong thing when provoked. Your ability to remain still when chaos is rising gives you something the world desperately needs: stability. You become the anchor when everyone else is drifting, the lighthouse when others are lost in the storm. You don't move because you don't need to. You've already decided who you are. You've already set your standards. You've already chosen peace over pettiness. So the noise can rise, but you don't. The insults can fly, but you stay grounded. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Stillness is your elevation tool. It's the quality that separates those who react to life from those who shape it. You don't get pulled into drama because your spirit is too expensive to rent out to chaos. You don't prove yourself in arguments because your fruit proves it for you. You don't respond to everything because you're too focused on the things that actually build your destiny. Stillness gives you power in a world that's constantly trying to take it. And when you choose stillness, you're not backing down. You're standing in something stronger than noise. You're standing in wisdom, discipline, and clarity. And that makes you a force no one can rattle. Every reaction has a cost. Every reaction has a cost. And most people are bankrupt emotionally because they've been spending their energy recklessly, paying attention to what doesn't matter, investing in conflicts that don't pay dividends, and losing their peace to arguments that add no value to their purpose. You've got to understand that every time you react emotionally, you are making a withdrawal from your mental bank. And if you're not careful, you'll go into overdraft, living frustrated, exhausted, and confused, not because life is too hard, but because your responses are too expensive. Let's get real. Someone insults you. You want to clap back, prove a point, defend your pride. You type that long message, you make that phone call, you gather evidence to justify your emotion. But after it's all said and done, what did it change? Did it feed your purpose? Did it grow your peace? Or did it just drain your day, stress your spirit, and derail your focus? That's the cost I'm talking about. You may feel better for a moment, but long-term, it's costing you clarity. People spend years reacting to nonsense and wonder why they're not making progress, because they haven't learned that emotional control is a form of wealth. Some people are broke, not financially, but spiritually, because they can't afford the price of their reactions anymore. They spend all their emotional currency on proving they're right, defending their image, fighting battles that were never assigned to them. And they end up exhausted, not because of what happened, but because of how they handled it. I remember sitting with a young man who told me, I keep getting into conflicts at work. People talk behind my back, and I always have to confront them. I just can't let it slide. And I told him, then you'll stay stuck. Because as long as you need to react, you'll never rise. The people at the top don't react to everything. They're not moved by whispers. They're not distracted by noise. They know that every response has a return, and some reactions give you zero ROI. Ask yourself, what am I really gaining when I react? Am I gaining influence? Am I gaining growth? Or am I just giving away power for the satisfaction of temporary release? Reactions may feel like relief, but they're often robbers in disguise. They take your energy and give you nothing back. They take your time, your concentration, your spiritual sharpness, and leave you emotionally bankrupt. Even in relationships, this plays out daily. A partner says something insensitive, and we snap back. A friend forgets something important, and we withdraw. A coworker gets credit for something we did, and we stew in bitterness. But here's the reality: you are not required to attend every argument you're invited to. You are not required to let every offense plant seeds in your spirit. You are not required to sacrifice your peace to satisfy your pride. Every reaction is a transaction, so before you pay, ask yourself if the purchase is worth it. I know people who can't sleep at night because of a conversation that happened 6 hours ago. They're tossing and turning, running scenarios in their head, thinking about what they should have said, what they could have done. But the person who triggered them is already living their life, eating dinner, watching Netflix, scrolling their phone. You're losing rest over someone who isn't even thinking about you. That's too expensive. You've got to budget your emotions like your life depends on it, because it does. Just like you wouldn't spend your last dollar on something worthless, don't spend your last bit of peace on something pointless. Your focus is a currency. Your time is a currency. Your calm is a currency. Protect it. There's a story of a man who built a business empire but was always calm in every crisis. When asked how he remained so composed, he said, I learned that reacting costs more than thinking. I pay once with silence, or I pay 10 times with words I regret. That's wisdom. That's emotional wealth. That's someone who understands that self-control is not denial, it's divine discipline. Daily life will tempt you to spend that emotional currency on things that don't grow you. A rude comment, a late text, a disrespectful tone, an unfair decision. But champions don't waste their breath proving themselves. They let their fruit speak. They let results be their voice. They let legacy do the talking. Because when you're building something big, you can't afford to lose your peace over something small. Reactions are easy. Discipline is expensive. But discipline pays you back in peace, clarity, influence, and long-term strength. You might not win every petty argument, but you'll win the war within. You might not respond to every disrespect, but you'll grow into someone untouchable. Someone who's above offense because they've decided that their destiny is too important to entertain distraction. Every time you react, you are spending emotional capital. Be wise. Don't go broke trying to win arguments that don't matter. Invest in your purpose. Save your energy for your goals. Store your focus for the mission. Because while the world is reacting, the wise are rising. They know the price of every word, and they only speak when the return is greater than the cost. People push what you permit. People push what you permit. That statement alone can realign the entire direction of your life. You teach people how to treat you, not by what you say, but by what you allow. If you tolerate disrespect, it grows. If you entertain manipulation, it strengthens. If you keep silent while your boundaries are violated, you give silent permission for it to continue. And over time, the problem is no longer them. It becomes you. Because what you keep allowing is what keeps evolving. Every time you let someone cross the line without consequences, you redraw that line in their favor. And little by little, the respect you deserve is replaced with convenience for them. People start to believe you're okay with being taken for granted. They test your limits, and when you don't respond, they take that as a green light. Your silence becomes the contract that approves their behavior. That's why emotional maturity is not just about staying calm. It's about knowing when to stand firm. Let me bring it to a real life scene. Imagine a co-worker who always dumps their responsibilities on you at the last minute. The first time it happens, you tell yourself, it's okay, I'll help. It's just once. The second time, they say, you did it last time and you're so good at it, so you take it on again. By the third time, they don't even ask, they expect. And now you're stressed, overworked, and undervalued. But here's the hard truth. You didn't train them to respect your time. You trained them to exploit your silence. You permitted it. And what you permit, people will push again and again until you either collapse or confront. This doesn't just happen at work. It happens in families, in relationships, in friendships. You let someone cancel on you 5 times in a row, and suddenly your time doesn't matter to them. You forgive the same disrespectful comment 10 times, and now it's part of how they talk to you. You shrink yourself to avoid confrontation, and before you know it, you're living a version of your life where your needs are invisible. Not because you didn't have value, but because you never enforced it. The truth is, people are watching your reactions more than they're listening to your words. You can say, I don't like that. But if your actions say, I'll stay anyway, they believe your tolerance over your talk. That's why self-respect is not loud. It doesn't need to yell. It doesn't need to argue. It just sets the standard and refuses to negotiate. People either rise to meet it or fall away, and both are blessings. This is what separates emotionally untouchable people from the rest. They don't allow anyone to play with their peace. They don't keep accommodating dysfunction and calling it grace. They don't give multiple second chances to the same toxic pattern just because they're afraid to be alone. They know that boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to a healthier life. And every time they enforce those boundaries, they reinforce their self-worth. Let's talk about relationships for a second. You're in a partnership where every disagreement turns into a shouting match. You feel drained, disrespected, and dismissed, but you stay. You don't demand accountability. You don't create space for change. You just hope things get better. But here's the thing. Hope is not a strategy when you're being disrespected. People change when they feel the consequences of not changing. If you keep allowing it, they keep doing it. Why? Because you taught them that your peace is negotiable, that your presence is guaranteed. And that's a lesson you have the power to unteach. When you start to truly value yourself, you'll be shocked at how quickly people either adjust or exit. Some will say you've changed. Some will call you difficult. Some will act like you're being unreasonable. But that's just the sound of people losing access to the version of you that let them get away with everything. And if they walk away because you refuse to be mistreated, let them go. Your peace is worth more than their comfort. Look at some of the most impactful leaders in the world. They don't scream for respect. They carry themselves in such a way that commands it. Why? Because they don't tolerate confusion. They don't accept what weakens them. They don't permit people to treat them any kind of way and still enjoy access to their presence. They understand that you can be kind, but not permissive. You can be humble, but not available for abuse. You can be forgiving, but still have a firm standard. It's not about becoming cold. It's not about becoming harsh. It's about understanding that if you don't draw the line, someone else will draw it for you, and it will never be where you deserve. The world does not honor those who bend to everything. The world respects those who stand for something, and that starts with you. What you accept is what becomes your environment, and your environment either feeds your growth or kills your fire. People don't just push what you permit. They shape their entire behavior toward you based on what you've trained them to believe is acceptable. So ask yourself, what have I been permitting that's been robbing me of my power? What have I been tolerating that's been chipping away at my confidence? What have I allowed to go unchecked that's now controlling the rhythm of my life? Every time you enforce a boundary, you teach people how to treat you. Every time you refuse to entertain disrespect, you raise your value. Every time you stand tall and say, that's not acceptable here, you take back the pen and start rewriting the rules of your life. You don't need to scream to be heard. You need to mean what you say and act like your peace matters more than their approval. Because when you start walking like someone who won't be pushed, you'll find that people stop trying the emotionally untouchable. Think long term. The emotionally untouchable don't live for the moment. They live for the mission. They don't just think about how they feel now. They think about how their actions will shape who they are becoming. When you're controlled by impulse, by reaction, by instant emotion, you lose the ability to make decisions that elevate your future. But when you think long term, you protect your peace like it's a rare currency, because you understand that every moment is building something bigger than right now. Let's be real. Most people are emotional slaves to the present. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they rage. A partner says something wrong, they explode. A stranger on the internet disrespects them, they spend hours responding. What they don't realize is that they are mortgaging their future character for the sake of temporary satisfaction. You've got to ask yourself, is what I'm feeling right now more important than who I'm becoming? A man once said to me, I just say whatever's on my mind. I can't help it. And I replied, then you're choosing to live at the mercy of your emotions instead of leading them. See, emotional mastery is not about ignoring how you feel. It's about submitting those feelings to a higher vision. Because if your feelings have more authority than your values, then you'll destroy everything you're trying to build in one impulsive moment. Think about it. You're on a job, trying to climb the ladder, trying to prove you're reliable and wise. Your coworker undermines you in a meeting. You want to snap back, correct them, show them up. But what happens if you do? You might win the moment, but you lose credibility. You satisfy your ego, but damage your influence. You feel better now, but sabotage tomorrow. The emotionally untouchable pause long enough to ask, what's the long-term cost of this short-term win? Greatness doesn't come from reacting. It comes from restraint, from knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, from knowing when to confront and when to let your fruit speak for itself. The strongest people are not the loudest. They are the ones who have mastered the ability to wait, to strategize, to think ahead. They are playing a game that most people don't even see because they're too distracted by what's happening now. A wise woman once said, every time I wanted to yell, I remembered my goals. I didn't come this far to prove I'm right. I came this far to walk in purpose. That's the mindset of someone who thinks long term. You're not reacting to prove you're strong. You're choosing not to react because you know you've got more important battles to win. The battle for your future is greater than the war for your pride. Think about relationships too. You get into an argument with someone you love. They say something that hits deep. You want to clap back, hit below the belt, make them feel the pain they just caused. But if you do, the damage may last long after the anger is gone. What if instead of reacting, you breathe? You ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be reconciled? That's long-term thinking. That's emotional maturity. That's legacy over ego. The emotionally untouchable are not unfeeling. They're not cold. They're calculated. They've made a decision to govern their spirit so well that they don't hand over the keys to anyone with an attitude. They don't let offense become their navigation system. They don't let negativity become their fuel. They don't waste time reacting to what doesn't serve the bigger picture. They understand that if they don't manage their emotions will manage their destiny, and they refuse to hand their future to temporary feelings. Imagine a builder constructing a skyscraper. Halfway through, a storm comes. The wind is loud, the sky is dark, the rain is relentless. He could panic, start yelling at the weather, get frustrated and emotional, or he could stay inside the blueprint and wait it out because he knows that the storm is temporary, but the building is permanent. Your destiny is that skyscraper, and your emotions, they're the weather. If you build according to the weather, you'll never finish. But if you build according to the blueprint, your vision, your purpose, your values, you'll outlast every storm. You've got to get to a place where your long-term vision is so powerful that it silences your short-term reactions, where your purpose is louder than your pain, where your future speaks louder than your offense, where your dreams matter more than your ego. That's when you become emotionally untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you've trained yourself not to be controlled by what you feel. You've decided to protect your legacy more than your pride. You've chosen to play the long game. Even when the short term looks unfair, uncomfortable, or misunderstood, people will try to bait you. Life will try to pull you into unnecessary battles. But if you take the bait, you lose your place. Stay focused, stay elevated. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every insult deserves a reaction. Not every confrontation deserves your energy. You are not built to chase distractions. You are built to carry destiny. Let your silence disturb them. Let your calm confuse them. Let your focus frustrate them. Because when you think long-term, you win battles most people never even knew existed. Emotional intelligence is quiet strength. Emotional intelligence is not how loud you speak, how fast you respond, or how hard you clap back. It's how well you control the storm inside you when everything around you is trying to pull you into chaos. Real strength doesn't show itself in noise. It shows itself in poise. It's the ability to be completely aware of how someone is trying to trigger you and still choose peace over pride, stillness over shouting, wisdom over war. Because when you master your emotions, you stop being a puppet to other people's actions. You've probably been there. Someone says something slick, a passive-aggressive comment in a group. Maybe they tried to embarrass you in public. And everything inside you screams, say something. Show them you're not the one to play with. But something greater inside you whispers, this battle isn't worth your energy. They don't deserve a piece of your peace. That whisper, that's emotional intelligence in action. That's the quiet voice. Doesn't need to prove anything because it already knows what it carries. We've been trained in a world that celebrates reaction. Post it now. Respond now. Defend yourself now. Be the loudest in the room. But loud doesn't equal powerful, and reaction doesn't equal leadership. Emotional intelligence says, I don't have to respond just because I was provoked. I respond when it aligns with my purpose. It's the skill of recognizing your feelings without becoming your feelings. of being angry without becoming anger, of being disappointed without drowning in it. Picture a leader in a high-pressure boardroom. There's tension. Someone challenges their authority. Another person undermines their plan, and everyone's watching. The immature leader reacts. They slam the table, raise their voice, force control. But the emotionally intelligent one, they pause, breathe, observe, and then speak with clarity and calm. That's when people lean in. That's when influence is built, because people follow strength, not noise. Let's bring it home. You're in a relationship and you and your partner are in the middle of a heated conversation. It's easy to let your ego take the wheel. Easy to throw words like knives and justify it later with, I was just mad. But emotional intelligence pauses and asks, is what I'm about to say going to heal or harm? Will this build the relationship or break trust? It's realizing that in every emotional moment, you have a choice to escalate or elevate. And the choice you make shows what you're truly made of. You see, the people with the most peace aren't the ones who've never been provoked. They're the ones who've learned to protect their inner world, no matter what's happening externally. They understand that just because someone else is in chaos doesn't mean they have to join it. That's why the emotionally intelligent often seem unbothered. Not because they don't feel, but because they've trained themselves not to be controlled by every feeling. They are the thermostat in the room, not the thermometer. They don't rise and fall based on temperature. They set it. Let me give you a real example. A young woman was working under a boss who constantly disrespected her, gave her impossible deadlines, ignored her ideas, tried to break her confidence. Everyone expected her to quit or explode, but she didn't. She documented everything. She stayed focused, handled her work with excellence, and responded with grace. 6 months later, that boss was removed for misconduct, and she was promoted, not because she shouted, not because she played dirty, but because she remained strategic under pressure. That's emotional intelligence at work. That's silent strength. Too often, we think strength means matching energy. Someone disrespects you, so you disrespect them. Someone ignores you, so you ignore them. But when you match energy, you lose your identity. You let their dysfunction shape your behavior. Emotional intelligence says, I don't mirror what's around me. I magnify what's within me. That means staying kind when it's hard, staying calm when it's heated, staying wise when you're tempted to be wild. Even in parenting, emotional intelligence is gold. You don't always have to yell to discipline. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay consistent, stay steady, and show your children how to regulate, not react. Because more is caught than taught. Your calm teaches them more than your lectures. Your control shows them what strength really looks like. You may not have been taught this growing up. Maybe you saw emotional explosions all around you, fathers yelling, mothers panicking, friends overreacting. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's functional. You don't have to repeat cycles you were born into. You can be the one who changes the atmosphere, who says, I'll be the calm in the chaos. I'll be the wisdom in the madness. I'll be the peace in the storm. Emotional intelligence gives you a power that no one can steal because it's internal. It's not built on people liking you, agreeing with you, or validating you. It's built on knowing yourself, mastering your triggers, and controlling what you can. That's why it's quiet. Because it doesn't need applause to be effective. It just works. It just builds. It just wins silently. And in a world full of noise, that kind of power is rare. You don't react when you know who you are. You don't react when you know who you are. Because identity breeds stability. When your sense of self is rooted, not rented, then opinions, insults, or temporary chaos can't shake you. You've got to get to a place in your life where you don't let noise dictate your narrative. When someone tries to define you with their limited view, you don't flinch because you already defined yourself. And when you know who you are, you stop negotiating your worth in rooms you were born to own. In life, people will always test you, not because they know you, but because they don't. They throw shade hoping to see you stumble. They question your value hoping to make you second guess. But the person who knows who there isn't bothered. You don't see a lion explaining itself to sheep. It just roars. When your identity is clear, confusion doesn't pull you off your path. It only reveals who's not walking with you. Look at the world we live in. Everyone's chasing validation. People post to get approval. They speak to impress, not to express. But when you know who you are, you don't perform. You don't need 10,000 likes to feel 10 feet tall. You already stand tall in silence. Your sense of worth isn't tied to public applause. It's built in the quiet places where your character was forged. Through rejection, through failure, through lonely nights where all you had was vision and grit. You don't react when someone underestimates you because their underestimation is none of your business. You're too focused on executing. When you know who you are, you stop explaining your calling to those who were never assigned to understand it. You stop trying to prove your potential to people committed to misunderstanding your power. You just walk in it. You show up, you deliver, you build. Picture this. A young man works tirelessly at his craft, early mornings, late nights, constant criticism. Then someone comes along and says, "You're not that special." You're wasting your time. He could react. He could argue, but instead he smiles because he knows something they don't. He knows where he's headed. He knows the fire that's been tested in private will shine in public, and he doesn't need their confirmation to continue. That's the power of identity. When you know who you are, you don't trade your peace for petty debates. Think about this. Why do some people get triggered so easily? Because they're not secure in their foundation. The less you know about yourself, the more you react to everything. Every insult feels like a threat. Every disagreement feels like disrespect. But when you're anchored in truth, you don't flail in storms. You don't personalize what's not yours. You don't crumble because someone didn't clap for you. You build with quiet confidence. You walk with divine restraint. That's the mark of someone who knows who they are. Even in relationships, this is gold. When you're not secure in yourself, everything your partner does feels personal. If they're quiet, you assume it's about you. If they're distracted, you take offense. But when you're rooted in identity, you give space. You don't react to shadows. You communicate, not retaliate, because your security isn't tied to their mood. It's built in your own self-awareness. Let's take a practical example. You walk into a room where you're the only one who looks, thinks, or acts like you. You feel the tension. You hear the whispers. Someone even makes a slick remark. You can shrink. You can react. Or you can walk in purpose. When you know who you are, you walk into uncomfortable rooms like you were born to shift atmospheres. You don't adjust your crown for comfort. You don't lower your light to make others feel safe in their dimness. You shine regardless. See, when people don't know who they are, they compete. But when you do, you complete. You walk in collaboration, not comparison, because you're not threatened by someone else's gift. You're anchored in your own. You don't react when someone shines next to you because you know your light has its own lane. There's no need to race when your purpose is custom designed. There's a certain silence that comes with true identity. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the stillness of someone who has wrestled with their insecurities, faced their failures, and still chose to rise. It's the power of knowing, I may not be perfect, but I'm progressing. I may not be there yet, but I'm on purpose. And that kind of internal truth silences every external lie. People will talk, they'll mock, they'll miserable. But when you know who you are, their opinions are just echoes in the hallway of your destiny. You don't chase every comment. You don't attend every argument. You don't beg to be seen. You focus on becoming. You pour energy into mastery, not reactions. You rise with clarity and move with conviction. This is what separates leaders from followers, builders from breakers, legacy makers from attention chasers. When your identity is intact, your response is intentional. You don't swing wildly, you strike strategically. You don't cry over doors that closed, you build ones that open. You don't need to wear the crown on your head when it's already engraved in your soul. So while others panic, you prepare. While others gossip, you grow. While others react, you remain steady. Because the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The one who knows who they are doesn't need to be heard every time. Sometimes the most powerful move is the one you don't make. The most powerful word is the one you don't speak. And the most powerful reaction is the one you rise above. As you stand on the edge of transformation, remember this truth. Mastery over your emotions is mastery over your life. You are not a victim of circumstance, nor a hostage to the opinions of others. You are a sovereign being, created with the power to choose your responses, to govern your inner kingdom with wisdom and strength. The art of not reacting is not weakness. It is the greatest form of power you can possess. Because when you refuse to be shaken by every storm, you become unshakable. When you refuse to feed every fire of conflict, you become the calm in the chaos. This is your destiny, not by chance, but by choice. Consider the words of the great philosopher Marcus Aurelius, who said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the core of emotional mastery, the recognition that your peace depends not on external circumstances, but on the command you hold within yourself. You have the ability to respond, not react, to build, not break, to rise, not retreat. Imagine the lives of those who changed the course of history, not because they were loudest or angriest, but because they were calm amidst the storm. Nelson Mandela, after 27 years of imprisonment, chose forgiveness over bitterness. Rosa Parks refused to react to injustice with anger, but with steadfast resolve. These leaders understood that true power lies not in reacting to every attack, but in standing firm, anchored by a deep sense of purpose and identity. You must embrace this same mindset. Life will test you, people will provoke you, circumstances will challenge you, but your response will define your destiny. The world is full of those who lose themselves in every argument, every slight, every moment of offense. But you are called to be different. You are called to be a master of your emotions, to be so anchored in who you are that no storm can toss you off course. Listen closely to this. He who angers you controls you. If you allow your emotions to be hijacked by every word spoken against you, you are handing over your power. But when you choose calm, when you choose peace, when you choose restraint, You reclaim your power and become the author of your own story. You become the architect of your future, not a victim of your past. Remember, the greatest battles are won not with swords, but with silence. Not with loud retorts, but with quiet confidence. When you hold your tongue in the face of provocation, you display a strength that commands respect far more than any angry outburst ever could. You demonstrate a maturity that others will admire, even if they don't understand it yet. So as you walk away from this moment, commit to a higher standard for yourself. Refuse to be a slave to fleeting emotions. Refuse to be reactive in a world that thrives on reaction. Instead, be intentional, be purposeful, be a warrior of peace. Master your emotions, and you master your life. As the legendary Bruce Lee said, the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Your emotional mastery is your focus. It's your discipline. It's your greatest weapon. Use it wisely. Harness it daily. Let it transform you into a person who no longer reacts to life's chaos, but shapes it with calm authority. And when doubts rise, when temptations to lose control appear, remind yourself of this powerful truth. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reactions write the story of your life. Choose them with care. Choose them with courage. Choose them with the unwavering belief that you are bigger than any moment of conflict, greater than any challenge to your peace. Step into your power now. Be the person who is emotionally untouchable, unbreakable, unstoppable. Let your calm become your loudest statement. Let your peace be your greatest victory. The art of not reacting is not just a skill, it is your legacy. And it begins with the decision you make right now in this very moment to rise above and master yourself. The world needs more people like you, people who refuse to be dragged into drama, who choose dignity over destruction, who hold the highest standard for their character and conduct. Be that person, live that truth, and watch as your life, your relationships, and your destiny are forever transformed by the simple yet profound art of not reacting.